Okay. Hello, everybody. Before we begin, thank you, FTB, for providing the requested list before the hearing. Much appreciated. Ms. Alonso has gotten a copy as well as the list of cases that taxpayer provided upon my request just now. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Office of Tax Appeals. Today's oral hearing procedures for the appeal of Little Man in the Boat Inc. doing business as Just Dreaming Yacht Charters is publicly viewable, and a stenographer will report everything that is said. I am Shireen Ridenauer and will be the lead administrative law judge for purposes of this hearing. My co-panelists today are Josh Lambert and Kim Wilson. Also present is our stenographer, Ms. Alonso, who is reporting this hearing verbatim. To ensure we have an accurate record, we ask that everyone speaks clearly, loudly, and one at a time. When needed, the stenographer or any panel member will interrupt to ensure proper transcription. After the hearing, the stenographer will produce the official hearing transcript, which will be available on OTA's website. As a reminder, OTA is not a court, but is an independent appeals body, which is staffed by tax experts and is independent of CDTFA. While OTA is not a court, we must nevertheless follow certain guidelines to ensure that we establish a proper record on which a decision may be based and to conduct an orderly hearing. All parties must be courteous to each other and to the panel, and a party may not interrupt another party. Each party will have the opportunity to be heard, so please wait when it's your turn to present your side. Also, I may interrupt the hearing if we get out of order or become counterproductive, as keeping us on track and creating a clean and efficient hearing record is part of my role as the lead administrative law judge. As a preliminary matter, Mr. Murray, you mentioned during the pre-hearing conference that you would decide at today's hearing if you would be testifying. Will you be testifying today?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Do any of the parties intend, pending a showing of good cause, to submit additional exhibits not previously submitted or call any witnesses not previously identified? Mr. Murray?
No, Your Honor.
CDTFA? Jacobs?
No, thank you.
Okay. Are there any questions about anything I've said before we go on the record? Mr. Murray?
No, Your Honor.
Ms. Jacobs?
No, thank you.
Great. Judge Lambert, are you ready to proceed?
Yes, I am.
Hearing Officer Wilson, are you ready to proceed?
Yes, I am.
Great. And Ms. Alonso, are you ready?
I am ready, Judge. Thank you.
Great. We are opening the record in the Office of Tax Appeals oral hearing for the appeal Little Man in the Boat, Inc., doing business as Just Dreaming Yacht Charters, OTA case number 240315753. Today's date is July 15th, 2025, and the time is 1:07 p.m. The hearing is being conducted virtually with the agreements of the party. Today's hearing is being heard by a three-person panel. My name is Shireen Ridenauer, and I am the lead judge. My co-panelists are Judge Lambert and Hearing Officer Wilson. The panel will meet after the hearing and produce a written decision as equal participants. While I may be conducting the hearing, any panel member may ask questions or otherwise participate to ensure that we have all the information needed to decide this appeal. For the record, will the parties please state their names and who they represent, starting with the representatives for appellants.
This is David Ongro on behalf of Mr. Murray, and Mr. Murray also appearing.
Okay. Well, Mr. Ongro, are you taking lead or is Mr. Murray?
We're both. I'm going to do the questioning so that it's clear, and then he's going to do the statements.
Okay, thank you. And for CDTFA?
Amanda Jacobs, an attorney for the CDTFA legal department.
Jarrett Noble, also an attorney with CDTFA's legal department.
And Jason Parker, Chief of Headquarters Operations Bureau with CDTFA.
Great, thank you, everybody. As stated in my minutes and orders dated June 26, 2025, there's one issue in this appeal. Whether OTA has jurisdiction to determine whether Title 33 of the United States Code, Section 5B, a federal statute, preempts or otherwise prohibits California from taxing retail sales of alcoholic beverages on a vessel under Revenue and Taxation Code Section 6051, and if OTA has jurisdiction, whether California is preempted. The exhibits are listed in exhibit log, which has been distributed to the parties. During the pre-hearing conference, CDTFA raised no objections to appellant's exhibits 1 through 6, and they were admitted into evidence. During the pre-hearing conference, appellant raised no objections to CDTFA's exhibits A and B, and they were admitted into evidence. As for witnesses, CDTFA previously indicated it will not call any witnesses. An appellant indicated that Mr. Murray will be testifying today, and CDTFA raised no objections. As such, Mr. Murray will be sworn in before appellant's presentation. There are no other witnesses today. Mr. Murray, do you need something?
No, I was just holding my hand to get sworn.
Oh, not yet, sir.
Sorry, I put it down.
As a reminder to the parties, during our pre-hearing conference, we decided that appellant will have 20 minutes to make its presentation, followed by CDTFA, who will have 20 minutes. Then appellant will have 5 minutes to provide closing remarks if it so chooses. Each party is encouraged to monitor their own time. Does anyone have any questions before we move on into presentations? Mr. Ungaro, Mr. Murphy?
Nope.
No, Your Honor.
Okay, CDTFA?
No, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jacobs. Okay, before we proceed, Mr. Murray, I'm going to place you under oath so that we can consider your statements as testimony, and you will remain under oath until the close of the hearing. Will you please raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Please say yes or no.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, the time currently is 1:11. And when you're ready to proceed, Mr. Murray and Mr. Ungaro, you may begin your presentation.
Sure. Thank you.
Right.
Mr. Murray, why don't you tell the board a little bit about Little Man in the Boat?
In 1993, I purchased a Stevens boat, a 63-foot dual diesel motoring yacht, and began the process of converting it from recreational to commercial. It took 9 years to get a license issued by the Coast Guard. They're the only ones that licenses boats that do commercial work. And the license was secured in 2003. Since 2003, we have been on the water in San Francisco Bay continuously, that is every year, without exception. We have had licenses issued by the Coast Guard and local authorities also. In 2006, I secured a 100-ton master's license after going to school and getting the hours in that I needed, and I have been operating Little Man in the Boat as a charter boat captain since 2006, without exception. My license has been maybe expired for a couple of weeks at one point or another, but I have been continuously a 100-ton charter boat captain. If you see the paperwork, it'll say master. That is Coast Guard lingo for who's in charge of the vessel, also known as captain.
Great. And as part of the commercial operations, have you paid any taxes to the California Department of Tax?
I may have knowingly or unknowingly, but it wasn't, I haven't paid sales tax because we weren't doing any sales on the boat until 2003.
Right. And at that time, after that time, did you pay taxes?
I am the one that calls every month it was every month at first, and it was every quarter, and now it's every quarter that I call in and say, here's the gross receipts. They calculate it and say, okay, this is your bill. I believe the last few years our bill has been paid by credit card, and so I've been the one that does that every quarter since we started.
Okay. And do you have exhibit number 1 in front of you?
I actually put it together and submitted it, but yes, I know exhibit 1.
Okay. And can you explain to us what is exhibit 1?
When I wanted to get a succinct statement of the money that we've paid to the department in the time period that we're appealing from, it's not everything. We only have a limited window, and in that limited window, I asked the agent to help. The agent, they were very helpful. They said, "Yeah, here, let's see if we can do this." This is the time frame for which I'm trying to get a return of the funds for the taxes that we paid. I think I started all this in 2023, and we have been monitoring and trying to put together the exhibits ever since. The actual amount in the time frame, the window that is subject to this appeal, is $17,218.
And exhibit one, number one, the documents themselves, where did you obtain those from?
I'm sorry, what is the what?
The exhibit number one, the
Yeah.
documents themselves, where did you obtain those documents?
I obtained them from my account in the CDTFA computer system for the
Okay.
monies that we have paid. And I did that with the assistance of the CDTFA agent who helped me arrange to get the correct times and the correct amounts listed.
Okay. And is your boat under the jurisdiction of the Coast Guard?
It's under the exclusive jurisdiction of the Coast Guard. The Coast Guard is the only entity that can order us to do things, and then we must comply.
And does the Coast Guard do inspections of your vessel?
At least 2, sometimes 3, sometimes 4 a year. I just finished another inspection on another boat that I own this last Friday, and they have everything from annual inspections, haul out inspections, new to zone inspections. Yes, I have to not only get inspected, but I have to comply with their document requirements. I have to show that our teams are properly trained. They have the right medical certificates. They have the right drug testing done. We have people on the boat that have to produce evidence that they are drug-free and be subject to random drug testing. And that's all done under the auspices and control of the United States Coast Guard.
Mr. Murray, Mr. Ongaro, I'm going to interrupt here for a moment. I would like to stay with the relevance as to what is that issue. I do believe we understand the Coast Guard has given you various certifications and whatnot, but I would like you to please be focused more on the issue at hand before this panel. Okay.
Well, the Coast Guard having jurisdiction over the vessel is directly relevant to
and
the
I do
issues
believe-
before the panel.
Mr. Ongaro, and I do believe that has been made. And if we could just go circle back to what is that issue in front of us, is whether there is jurisdiction or preemption. I would
Okay.
appreciate that. Thank you.
Mr. Murray, why do you believe there is no jurisdiction by the state of California to tax your vessel?
Because the boat operates on waters owned by the United States of America, the U.S. Coast Guard controls, and it operates under the Section 5B, both the issue of navigating on waterways, navigable waterways. The San Francisco Bay is a navigable waterway, and it is also part of the freedom to navigate that we operate there.
And why do you believe that any taxes by the state of California would be preempted?
Because the Section 5B specifically states no taxes or other obligations. And if I can explain that, all of this comes about because when the United States was formed, there was an effort to prevent one entity or another from getting a better hold on collecting taxes. And the way they did that was that they created the tonnage clause and the dormant commerce clause. And both of those clauses was to prevent local entities from attempting to, and local, I mean anything other than the United States government, from getting taxes from people that go from one area to another. For example, when I come to San Francisco, there's an 8.5%, 8.75% tax. Now, that's fine, but what happens when I go into Richmond? And what happens when I go into Alameda? And what happens when I go into Sausalito? If each one of those could add taxes to me, which San Francisco does, independent of the sales tax, then they could wipe out our business easily. When I started, we had 30 charter boats going to San Francisco. When their new contract came in 2016, it dropped down to 21. It is now at 6. There's a lot of boats that cannot handle the freight, if you will, the taxes that are being placed on them. And in San Francisco, if I take the 8.75 sales tax and the additional 7% that they add by landing, the charter agreements that we have to sign, and then I started adding on the possessory interest tax, the transfer tax, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, they are approaching 20% of our gross income before we pay anybody or pay for gas or anything else. And so you'll see the case, one of the lead cases, Little Man in the Vote versus City and County of San Francisco, is because of those kind of taxes that are killing us. And I'm a Democrat, but it's just killing us.
And would that affect interstate commerce?
It not only it prevents interstate commerce. It prevents a lot of companies from doing business in San Francisco. We had 21 companies in 2016. It's now down to 6 because you cannot pay those kind of rates and stay in business when you have a thin margin of profit.
And does your charters, do they involve interstate commerce at any time?
Oh, I'm always in. My boat does a lot of interstate commerce because we have people fly in from New Zealand, from Europe, from other states. They all come here and they transit the bay. They want to go out sightseeing. They want to see things. We take them out to not only see whales every now and then. We take them to Angel Island. We take them to Sausalito for dinner. There's a lot of interstate commerce that comes through Just Streaming on a regular basis. And if I didn't have that, I couldn't stay in business. I need to bring in at least $600,000 at least to begin the process of paying off the expenses for that boat.
And Mr. Murray, are you aware or done any research on whether there are any exceptions to 33 USC section 5B?
There is exceptions. There's 3 statements as to exceptions, and they're in the conjunctive. That is, you have to comply with A, B, and C. 1 is safety. 2 is get what the second is. The third is it cannot amount to more than a small small amount of your gross income. So there's those 3, but the main one is that it has to be providing a service to the vessel. The exceptions are primarily service to the vessel. And the reason that came about, you can read it in the Little Man case that I argued in the Court of Appeal, or you can hear it is because the dormant commerce clause and the other clauses did not make an exception for expenses of the boat. So technically, if I came in and I gassed up, or I came in and I got them to do some work on my boat at a port, that port could not technically charge me. However, the exception has now been written into the statute. The statute is the embodiment of what Congress saw as laying out the rules for states and local jurisdictions collecting taxes. And it is just furtherance the constitutional protections afforded by the dormant commerce clause and the tonnage clause. And that's not me talking. That's exactly what was said in the Little Man in the Boat decision, which I argued and talked to the court about.
And are any of the taxes at issue in this case fees charged for port or harbor dues?
No, absolutely not. To be qualified, you have to be providing a service to the vessel. I remember the second one. The second one was to promote safety and efficiency of a vessel on the water, and the third is it can't amount to more than a small amount. There's nothing that is being provided by the taxing entity when they issue a tax. It does not qualify as on the first prong, and it has to meet all 3 prongs.
And are you aware of any other exceptions to the section which says no taxes, tolls, operating charges, or fees, or any other impositions, whatever, shall be levied against the vessel? Are you aware of any other exceptions?
I might be, but as I sit here right now, I'm kind of drawing a blank.
Okay.
Go ahead.
And why don't you tell the panel why you believe that they do not have authority to collect the taxes that they've been collecting?
Because it has been demonstrated the intent of Congress was to protect boats, to keep them so that they can continue to function. If we get hit with tax here and tax there, San Francisco, Berkeley, Alameda, we can't function. And it was a reason that when we went to war with England, that was one of the key things. We're not going to tax these boats as they can come and go. The freedom to navigate requires that we don't get overburdened with taxes on a regular basis by one or another. And that includes the state of California in charging sales tax.
And
Before you go on,
you argued the Ninth Circuit case,
I did.
Little Man in the Boat. And can you tell us what the significance of that is?
Okay. From my point of view, the bad part of it is that you cannot sue as a cause of action for the Rivers and Harbors Act. The good news is, from my point of view, is that the court reaffirms, as does both Wendella cases, that there is a prohibition. You are prohibited from imposing any kind of charge or fee or whatever on a boat unless it qualifies under the three-pronged test. And when it doesn't qualify under the three-pronged test, there's no way around it. You don't try and argue your way out of it. You got to leave the money alone. It's not something that can be taxed.
Great. And I know we're running out of time here, Mr. Murray. So is there anything else that you want to tell the panel?
I just wanted to put an explanation to the various documents that we have in evidence. I know they're in evidence, and I appreciate the department for not making us fight over those things, but it's just real simple. Those documents demonstrate who we are and what we are. We have a license by the Coast Guard, the COI. We have a document by the Coast Guard. The certificate of documentation says that we are operating on navigable waters. I have gone through and listed things, including the fictitious business name statement, in case somebody wants to argue that there's a difference between the boat and the corporation, because that defeats that. And then, of course, Wendella too goes into great lengths about how the individual owner is a representative of the boat and are both protected under 33 USC 5B. So all those documents were put in for the specific purpose of demonstrating that what I've told you here is in fact documented by entities like the Coast Guard, et cetera.
Great. Anything else that you'd like to add, Mr. Murray?
No, I think we're done.
Thank you.
Thank you both very much. Ms. Jacobs, does CDTFA have any questions for the witness?
No questions, thank you.
Thank you. Judge Lambert, do you have any questions?
This is Judge Lambert. I don't have any questions right now. Thanks.
Thank you. Hearing Officer Wilson, do you have any questions?
I do have a question. I didn't notice in the record if this was sales tax reimbursement we were talking about.
I believe it is, yes.
Okay, and so that was sales tax you collected from your customers and remitted to CDTFA, correct?
No. We do not necessarily collect. When somebody comes in and buys a beer, we don't say, oh, and there's an extra 8.75% on that. We wouldn't have time when you got 40 people on one bartender and they're all cruising through the boat real fast. We collect the money for the sale. I don't recall as I've ever worked as the bartender or any of the other bartenders collecting a sales tax on top of that.
Do you have any kind of notice letting the customer know that sales tax is included in the price as is typical with a bar?
I do not have any notice that's posted, and I'm unaware of anybody telling the people that come on the boat that the sales tax is included in their purchase of a beer or wine or a shot.
Okay, so the sales tax you remitted, can you explain that? That it was just based on your gross receipts or on your sale of just alcohol, or how did you determine how much to remit?
Okay, we don't handle food per se. People bring on food. They have caterers, et cetera. So food is excluded. We don't have to. worry about that. The only thing I have to worry about is what alcohol we sell, and how much, and keep a good record of it. And so that's what I try and do. If we sell 10 beers at $8 a beer, I gotta pay taxes on $80. That's how I see it. It's not an overly sophisticated system.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Murray and Mr. Ongaro. Ms. Jacobs, the time currently is 1:30 p.m. When you're ready, please begin your presentation.
Thank you. The refund claim at issue is based on appellant's retail sales of tangible personal property, or TPP, to its customers, passengers, during charters of its 63-foot yacht. We do not contest that the vessel is a licensed charter vessel operating on the navigable waters of San Francisco Bay. Appellant reported and remitted taxes on its sales to the department, and the claim period is July 1st, 2018 through December 31st, 2021. The issue in this case, as stated, is whether OTA has jurisdiction to determine whether 33 U.S.C. 5B, which we will refer to as the Act, preempts or otherwise prohibits California from taxing retail sales of TPP on a vessel under Revenue and Taxation Code Section 6051, and if OTA has jurisdiction, whether California is preempted. We will begin with the issue of jurisdiction. OTA has jurisdiction to resolve appeals involving California taxes, including sales and use tax appeals, Government Code Section 15671A and 15672B. However, OTA is not a court, and it does not have jurisdiction to consider whether a California statute is invalid or unenforceable under the U.S. Constitution, or to refuse to enforce a statute on the basis that federal law prohibits the enforcement of a statute, unless a federal or California appellate court has already made such a determination. See Regulation 30104A and California Constitution Article 3, Section 3.5C, as well as Appeal of J. Acosta and M. Castro, 2022 OTA 235P. As we will discuss in further detail later, California, like most states, imposes sales and use tax on retailers' sales of TPP in this state. To the department's knowledge, there is no federal or California court opinion specifically determining whether application of California sales tax to sales of TPP made on a vessel is preempted by the Act. Appellant cites to a Ninth Circuit case brought by appellant, Little Man on the Boat Incorporated versus City and County of San Francisco, a 2023 case. In that case, appellant brought an action against San Francisco alleging that landing fees imposed on commercial charters operating out of a marina in San Francisco Bay violated the Act. The Ninth Circuit Court determined that there is no private right of action in the Act, meaning that the law does not give private individuals, like appellant, the right to sue to enforce this law. In sum, OTA lacks jurisdiction to determine whether application of the California sales and use tax law to appellant sales of TPP is preempted by the Act, and on that basis, this appeal should be dismissed. However, even if OTA finds it has jurisdiction, the application of tax to appellant on its retail sale of TPP is not preempted by the Act. As you know, California imposes sales tax on a retailer for its retail sales of TPP in California, measured by the retailer's gross receipts, unless the sale is specifically exempt or excluded from taxation by statute. Revenue and Taxation Code Sections 6012 and 6051. A retailer includes every seller who makes retail sales of TPP. Section 6015. All gross receipts are presumed to be subject to tax unless a retailer can prove otherwise. Section 6091. The transactions at issue are appellant's sales of TPP, which are subject to tax under these statutes. However, appellant has requested a claim for refund on the tax on its sales, asserting that it is entitled to a refund because California's sales and use tax law has been preempted by federal statute. If the department determines that any amount of tax, penalty, or interest has been erroneously or illegally collected, and the department determines that such amount was not required to be paid, the department must credit or refund that amount to the person from whom the money was collected or by whom it was paid, or their successors, administrators, or executors. Section 6901. The claimant, appellant in this case, bears the burden of establishing entitlement to a refund. See Honeywell Incorporated versus State Board of Equalization, 1982, which is 128 Cal App 3D 739 at pages 744 to 745, as well as the California Code of Civil Procedure, section 720.360. Likewise, the U.S. Supreme Court has held that the burden of establishing preemption rests with the party who is seeking the benefit of it. Again, in this case, that would be appellant. See, for example, De Bueno versus NYSA-ILA Medical and Clinical Services Fund, 1997, 520 U.S. 806, pin site 814. This is a considerable burden because the, quote, starting presumption is that Congress does not intend to supplant state law, end quote. That's De Bueno at pin site 814. In fact, preemption is disfavored unless the nature of the regulated subject matters permits no other conclusion or Congress has unmistakably so ordained. See Florida Lime and Avocado Growers Incorporated versus Paul, 1963, 373 U.S. 132, pin site 142. The statute which appellant relies on, 33 U.S.C. 5B, states in relevant part, no taxes, tolls, operating charges, fees, or any other impositions whatever shall be levied upon or collected from any vessel or other watercraft or from its passengers or crew by any non-federal interest if the vessel or watercraft is operating on any navigable waters subject to the authority of the United States or under the right to freedom of navigation on those waters. And then it continues with certain enumerated exceptions. Appellant contends that no taxes in the Act means no taxes whatever, and also contends that the vessel, passengers, or crew are synonymous with and or include any business entity connected to a vessel, such that it prevents taxation on the business revenue or gross income generated by a business operating the vessel. But let's be clear. If appellant were not making retail sales of tangible personal property, there would be no tax at issue in this appeal. Unlike appellant's cases that he cited in briefing, appellant's liability for tax on its sale of tangible personal property is easily separated from its operation of the vessel. As such, it clearly does not fall within the purview of the Act. In Real Hooker Sport Fishing Incorporated versus the State of Hawaii Department of Taxation, 2010, 123 Hawaii 494, the Intermediate Court of Appeals of Hawaii decided to broadly construe the term vessel to include the gross income generated by a taxpayer's use of its vessel. Decided to broadly construe the term vessel to include the gross income generated by a taxpayer's use of its vessel in light of the strong presumption against preemption. And that's Real Hooker at page 498. Similarly, in this case, it would be inappropriate to construe the term vessel in the Act to include the retail sale of TPP by a business entity operating the vessel. In briefing, appellant talked about how the Wendella case specifically disproves real hooker sport fishing. However, Wendella is distinguishable from this case. The court in Wendella found that an amusement tax applied to patrons of city amusements, including sightseeing boat tours, was preempted by the act. However, the tax here is imposed on separate sales of TPP. We again note that, unlike in Wendella, if appellant stopped selling TPP, it would still be able to operate the vessel without concern for the taxes at issue in this appeal. The 11th Circuit Court of Appeals in CSX Transportation Incorporated versus Alabama Department of Revenue, 2018, 888 F3D 1163, determined that Alabama state sales and use taxes on diesel fuel did not violate the act. It found that properly construed, the federal statute, quote, forbids taxes imposed on the vessel itself or on its crew members themselves or on the passengers themselves, not taxes imposed on property purchased for use on or by a vessel or by its crew or by its passengers, end quote. And that's CSX at pin site 1185. The court determined that to find otherwise, quote, would forbid states from taxing the purchase of any tangible personal property for use on or by a vessel, its passengers, or crew, and that water carriers would become floating tax-free zones, end quote. CSX at page 1184. Similarly, appellant's reading of the act would entirely exempt from tax any sales of TPP made aboard a vessel operating on navigable waters, subject to federal authority. This is an absurd conclusion that would grant every operator of a vessel an unfair retail advantage. There would be nothing to stop all retailers from deciding to sell their TPP on vessels, thereby ending the state's ability to collect sales tax used for vital public services. Finally, we note that appellant's interpretation of the act is entirely inconsistent with the legislative intent of the statute, and that the House Conference Report for the 2003 amendments to the act specifically state that it, quote, does not affect whether sales or income taxes are applicable with respect to vessels, end quote. In conclusion, OTA does not have jurisdiction to find that appellant sales are preempted from taxation because there are no federal or California appellate court decisions invalidating the relevant statutes and regulations at issue in this appeal. Furthermore, appellant has failed to provide any relevant authority preempting the imposition of sales and use tax aboard vessels, and it is clear that there was never intent to create such an exemption. As such, even if OTA had jurisdiction in this matter, appellant's arguments lack merit. For these reasons, we request the appeal be denied. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jacobs. Judge Lambert, do you have any questions?
This is Judge Lambert. I don't have any questions. Thanks.
Thank you. Hearing Officer Wilson, do you have any questions?
No questions.
Thank you. I do not have any questions at this time either. Mr. Murray, you have some closing time to make some closing remarks from Mr. Ongaro. Should you choose to, it can be in response to CDTFA's presentation or any questions by Hearing Officer Wilson have made thus far, if you would like to. Would you prefer to do that now?
I would, Your Honor.
Please.
Okay. A couple of things that I note right off the bat. We are not trying to claim that Little Man in the Boat is exempt from sales tax for things that it purchases on dry land. When I go to Safeway and buy a case of beer to bring on the boat, I don't ask them for an exemption. I don't put in a request to exempt those sales. The cases that she cited, and I believe it was the CXX case, talks about purchase of sales and goods that we want to use on the boat. But it does not say that I have any issue with trying to buy stuff and pay taxes outside of the boat. It's only when we are on the water. And one of the things that I kind of hope that I made clear, our sales only occur when we are on navigable waters. Our license to sell alcohol prohibits us from selling inside of the port. Only when we clear the gates of the port and stay outside can we sell alcohol. So we are necessarily on navigable waters. The couple of things. First, the little man in the boat case that I argued in the Ninth Circuit said there's no private right of action. It does not say that the code section is meaningless and you can avoid it. The code section, section 5B, is upheld by the court, and in fact, it goes into detail on how it came about being developed to where it is today. And they had no problem in saying that prohibits sales, taxes on a boat. It's just you can't sue under a cause of action named section 5B. There's a lot of talk by the state that there is a presumption and the presumption has to be overcome, etc. If you read Wendella 1, it says there is an indirect conflict that has to be overcome, and that they did overcome, that this code section indirectly conflicts, and therefore there's preemption. Wendella 2 goes even further, and Wendella 2 says it's not even an issue. It says that there is a conflict that cannot be made to be intelligent. Therefore, it is a conflict that says the states cannot carry on their own taxing when it comes to vessels on navigable waters. I want to note that right off the bat, that when we talk about real hooker and these other cases, there is a discussion in Wendella 2 and in other cases. I believe it was in also Little Man. Wendella 2 talks about the proper interpretation of a statute. And it says that you don't look to anybody who voted on it and say, well, I didn't think it should be enforced, or I didn't think it should mean what it says. It says you look at the plain language of the statute and enforce the plain language. And there's a reason behind that. 435 members of Congress, 100 members of the Senate, and the President of the United States read it and did not understand that there was a secret intent to defeat it. And that's what was in Little Man in the boat, in the trial court, and in Real Hooker. That they said, well, this guy here didn't really want to enforce or didn't want to have it be something that is enforceable. And the court said, no, you look at the plain language of the statute, and only where there's an ambiguity do you go behind the language. Here, there's no ambiguity. No means no means no. And no taxes doesn't mean that there's an ambiguity. So there doesn't have to be any kind of an interpretation of what that person may have meant. One of the approximate 536 people that voted on the statute, if one of them doesn't follow it, that's okay.
Mr. Murray, I would, the purpose was this is the closing, not a presentation again. And you've gone over your 5 minutes.
Okay.
So I'm going to, I'll give you a quick moment to wrap up, should you want to.
I just want to point out one thing. The department cited CSX Transportation versus Alabama. And that case exactly, if you read the language of it, upholds the statute again. And it says that we look at what the statute says. And it is as clear as can be in there at that point page that she mentioned, that it is not something that can be ignored or avoided by an attempt to interpret it otherwise. Anyhow, thank you for giving me the time, and I appreciate your attention.
Thank you. I do have a couple questions for you, Mr. Murray, before I ask my co-panelists if they have any as well. With regards to the Ninth Circuit case and Little Man on the Boat that you brought and them holding that there is no private cause of action when we were talking about Clause 5B, and I was wondering how you reconciled that holding with this case before the panel members.
The case that we're here on today? Oh, it's simple. Just because you can't sue, like you can't sue by stating I am suing based upon 33 USC 5B. It doesn't mean the prohibition doesn't apply. It just means you can't file a lawsuit on it. And specifically, if you look at Wendella 1 and Wendella 2, both of them say the prohibition is strong and you got to pay back the taxes because you shouldn't have collected it. It doesn't say that we're going to dispute whether or not there's a cause of action. There's no cause of action given. There's no cause of action. Collecting the money is still illegal. You can't do it, whether you call it under a cause of action or whatever. And that's what's going on now with these cases as they're going forward. Right, we can't sue on it, but you still can't take our money.
Thank you. I just wanted clarification for the record as to the reconciliation of that. Also, I did have one other question. In your reply to the department's additional briefing, you make a few references to an internal memo. And I was hoping for clarification as to what exactly you're referring when you speak of an internal memo, because there is not one in the exhibits.
I think I prepared that response about 1.5 years ago. Maybe a year ago. And I off the top of my head, I cannot recall where I got the internal memo, but one of the things I know that the department said was you have to have a California statute or California Court of Appeal decision. And when I read the particular case or the particular ruling that limited what you can do, it just said an appeal decision. It didn't say from California. And that's one of the things that I brought out, at least in that memo.
I see. Okay, I was just wondering because I do note the regulation section 30104, which pertains to the Office of Tax Appeals, does say unless a quote unquote, unless a federal or California appellate court has already made such a determination. And by reading the brief, I got the impression that you were referring to that as an internal memo. So I just wanted to get clarification if there was an internal memo.
Right.
I copy it.
And
please finish speaking for Ms. Alonzo's benefit, please. So that I just wanted to make sure there wasn't an internal memo that you were specific one that you were referring that I did not have a copy of, but that does not seem to be the case. Okay.
No, I don't.
Okay, great. Just want to make sure we had a clean and efficient and the record was complete.
And if I might respond to that?
Yes, please.
Once the federal case decision that upholds the statute and applies it is Little Man in the Boat, because it says that is a valid statute. It's just you can't name your cause of action 33 USC 5B. You got to find another thing like return of money, as they did on the East in Wendella. It's not I can't sue for that. I can say you took money you shouldn't have and then get it back. That's the federal decision that I'm relying on.
Thank you for clarifying that for the record, for sure. I appreciate that. Before we continue to conclude, I want to make sure first that Judge Lambert doesn't have any further questions.
This is Judge Lambert. No further questions.
Thank you. Hearing Officer Wilson.
Yes, I did have a question for CDTFA. I didn't see the refund in the briefing or exhibits. Did the appellant submit anything to support the claim for refund other than citing the preemption?
Hi, this is Amanda Jacobs. You asked if there's the claim for refund, a copy of the claim for refund, is that correct? We submitted an acknowledgement of the claim for refund, but I could not find a copy of the claim for refund in our files. That's what normally we would submit that as an exhibit, but I could not find a copy. So I know there must have been one because we acknowledged it, but I'm not sure where it is.
I think it's in the hearing binder.
It was just based upon the preemption argument. We didn't really have any dispute as to the calculations of the numbers or things along those lines.
Okay, thank you. Also, the appellant mentioned in his rebuttal that he purchased everything at Safeway, tax paid. Is I guess that was kind of what I was going for, if there was any evidence to show.
No, that's the first time we've heard of it, and they would need to file a claim for refund for any sort of tax paid purchases, resold deduction. And again, we've never conducted an audit because this was denied on the substantive level. We don't know if they collected tax reimbursement from the customer or just paid out of pocket and things. We would need to see receipts from Safeway, Specs, Bevmo, Wine Warehouse, and generally we expect to see people with ABC license and things buying from licensed distributors of alcohol and not from grocery stores. Could be the case, but we don't know. It'd be a verification audit after that.
Hearing Officer Wilson, can I add one thing real quick?
Sure.
Or maybe two points. First off, the what we considered the claim for refund is in our Exhibit A, pages 10, 11, 10 and 11, and then I think also the supporting information was the payments made to the department, which is page 13 of Exhibit A, or 13 through 14. And then as far as the tax paid purchases resold, I looked at some of the returns filed, and there were some returns where there was a deduction for tax paid on on purchases that were resold. So not on every return, but on some returns there was. But as Mr. Noble mentioned, they should be purchasing from a licensed distributor.
Thank you.
I believe you referenced, is it page 34 of the hearing binder, Jason?
Oh, sorry. Yes, Ms.
34 and
Jacobs.
35. Sorry. Just for the,
Yes.
Thank you.
that would be the claim for.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. All right, I don't have any follow-up questions after hearing Officer Wilson. So I want to thank everyone for participating in today's hearing. I am now concluding the hearing. The record is now closed and the panel will issue a written opinion of our OT's decision within 100 days of today. Today's hearing in the appeal of Little Men in the Boat, Inc., doing business as Just Dreaming Yacht Charters, is now closed and we're off the record. The next hearing will begin later today at 2:15 p.m. And I want to thank everybody for taking time to